The night her father signed the papers, Aira felt the sound before she felt the pain. The scratch of a pen across a white page echoed louder than her own heartbeat. She stood in the corner of the dim office, hands clenched, realizing that in a few careless strokes, she had been traded like an object. Not for love. Not for safety. For money. The man who bought her did not even look at her properly. He was tall, cold, and unreadable, his eyes like winter glass. His name was Armaan Khaleel, a CEO known for crushing companies and people with the same calm efficiency. When he finally glanced her way, there was no hunger, no desire. Only possession. And that terrified her more than anger ever could. Aira came from a home where love had slowly starved to death. Her mother died young, leaving behind silence and unpaid bills. Her father drowned his grief in gambling and debt, and by the time Aira turned 20, loan sharks were knocking on their door daily. She worked nights, studied days, and still it was never enough. When Armaan's men arrived with an offer that could erase every debt, her father did not hesitate. He convinced himself it was a temporary arrangement, a contract marriage, a sacrifice for survival. Aira knew the truth the moment she saw the steel in Armaan's eyes. This was not rescue. This was a cage made of silk. Armaan Khaleel had built his life on control. He had grown up in poverty, watching his mother beg relatives for help and receiving nothing but humiliation. When she died, he promised himself he would never be weak, never need anyone, never feel anything that could be used against him. He turned that vow into an empire. Relationships were transactions. People were replaceable. Emotions were liabilities. When Aira entered his life, she was just another deal. A clause in a contract. A means to an end. The wedding was quiet, almost clinical. No joy, no laughter, only signatures and photographs staged for the media. Aira moved into a mansion that felt more like a museum, cold walls filled with expensive art that carried no warmth. Armaan gave her everything money could buy except kindness. Separate rooms. Separate lives. Rules instead of conversation. She was allowed freedom within boundaries, comfort without affection. At night, she cried silently, wondering how a man could be married to someone and still feel like a stranger passing in the hallway. The first challenge came from within herself. Fear tried to break her, but Aira refused to disappear. She enrolled in online courses, started painting again, and volunteered at a local shelter. She spoke little to Armaan, but when she did, her voice was steady. She did not beg for love. She did not ask for mercy. That quiet strength unsettled him in ways he could not explain. He had expected obedience or rebellion. Instead, he got dignity. Armaan noticed her in fragments. The way she fed stray cats outside the gate. The way she stood up to his staff when they treated her like a burden. The way she thanked people who served her. These small things stirred something buried deep inside him. He dismissed it as curiosity. Then irritation. Then something dangerously close to need. One night, he saw her asleep on the couch, sketchbook fallen to the floor, her face relaxed in a way he had never seen awake. For the first time in years, Armaan felt hunger that had nothing to do with power. It scared him. That night changed everything. Not because he touched her, but because he realized he wanted to. And wanting was something he had trained himself never to do. From that moment on, he was restless. He started coming home earlier, asking questions he pretended were casual. He noticed when she was tired, when she was sad. He watched her smile at others and felt a sharp, unfamiliar ache. He told himself it was obsession, not emotion. But obsession did not make his chest hurt when she looked disappointed in him. The second challenge came when Aira discovered the full truth of the contract. She learned that her marriage had a hidden clause that bound her for 5 years, regardless of her wishes. Betrayal hit her harder than fear ever had. She confronted Armaan, her voice shaking with rage and hurt. She told him she was not a product, not a payment for someone else's sins. For the first time, Armaan was the one who had no words. He saw her pain and understood that he had become the very monster he once hated. That night, Aira packed her bags. She was ready to leave, contract or not. Freedom was worth any consequence. Armaan stopped her at the door, not with force, but with truth. He told her about his childhood, his mother, his fear of becoming weak. He admitted that he had treated her like a deal because he did not know how to treat her like a person. His voice broke when he said he did not want to own her anymore. He wanted her to choose him. The resolution did not come easily. Trust does not bloom overnight. Armaan tore up the contract in front of her, releasing her legally and financially. He told her she could leave and he would never stop her. That act cost him control, but it gave him something far greater. Respect. Aaira stayed, not because she was trapped, but because she saw men trying to change. Their relationship grew slowly, built on conversations, shared meals, quiet laughter. Armaan learned to listen. Aaira learned that strength did not always mean standing alone. They faced backlash from the media, anger from her father, and resistance from Armaan's own board, who saw love as weakness. Together, they chose differently. They chose humanity over pride. In the end, Armaan was no longer cold, and Aaira was no longer afraid. What began as a cruel transaction transformed into a partnership of equals. His hunger became devotion. Her pain became purpose. The story that started with selling a daughter ended with a woman reclaiming her worth and a man learning that real power is not control, but the courage to love. And the message they left behind was simple but strong. No one is too broken to change. No one is too powerless to choose themselves. Even in the darkest contracts of life, the human heart can rewrite the terms.